Welcome to Toy Train Review number 7. We have another great show for you.
We opened with a nice Lionel layout built around a Christmas tree, just like the ones you remember from the 50s. Joe Algazzini explains what variation collecting is all about. Then we go to the West Coast for Warren Frost's exquisite American Flyer S-Gauge layout. I guarantee even Lionel fans will be impressed. We visit the Heston Steam Museum in Indiana, where live steam is still king. And we discuss Lionel 1993 Book 2 with Larry Post, one of the leading Lionel dealers in the country.
We have a lot to cover, so let's get started. Our first story is about Christmas.
Dave Petrowski got hooked on toy trains early.
Supposedly my father told me 20 days after I was born, that's when I got my first train set.
That was Christmas 1949. Dave was born on December 5th. That first train set was an American Flyer, but Dave soon switched to Lionel because Flyer trains were scarce.
Went on into the early 50s, mid-50s, Flyer pieces were very hard to get. Everybody in the family had Lionel. In 1955, to my surprise, I received a set of Lionels for Christmas in 1955. And that's how this all got started.
In those days, the stores reduced prices after the holidays, and Dave was not one to pass up a bargain.
The pieces here that we got, they were acquired probably when I was 13 years old, saving allowance money, saving money for shoveling snow and that, and run off to a train store right after Christmas, and most of the time they were closing this stuff out 50% off. So something was $6, you got it for $3, and it was affordable at that time.
Dave wanted to recreate for kids today the same fantasy world he remembered as a child. A Christmas tree, ornaments, a snow-covered carpet, tiny lights, and at the heart of the fantasy, toy trains.
It's like a wonderland to them, with the tree, the ornaments, all the animated ornaments. It's just everywhere they look, things are moving, and that's what gets kids interested in this. Every little man, every little car, every little light, anything that blinks, it gets their attention. I'm a policeman. And you see so many kids, so many problem kids, and you wonder if you gave them stuff that made them creative, like years ago, Lincoln Logs, American Bricks, Black City, Lionel trains, American Flyer trains, simple Plasticville. One of these $1 houses could keep a kid occupied for hours, taking it apart, putting it together, using their minds, rather than wasting their time on street corners and joining gangs and everything. You never hear of a Lionel gang. Bunch of kids going to somebody's house and coming up with ideas of how they're going to set their trains up.
The layout measures 15 feet by 6.5 feet. There are 3 independent loops. The inner loop is a figure 8 and the outer loop has 054 curves. A ZW and LW transformers power the layout.
We put up the top layer a couple of years ago. I always liked that look in the Lionel catalog. Something up above like in a mountain, or a pass over a train going underneath another one, and a couple 1x6s and 2x4s cut down with this cotton batting on it, and it works out great.
About 200 feet of wires are under the 2-inch thick cotton batting, which is placed directly on top of the carpet. Plasticville buildings, die-cast figures and cars, a giant gateman, all contribute to that 50s-type toy train layout look.
Your basic pieces of Plasticville, I don't think anything is rare, and all of them were probably dime store bought for $1 or under. In those days, nothing ran over $1. But they're Ertl cars, very reasonable. There's some Vesti in there, Solito. Toys, exactly. Bringing back those childhood days, 6, 7 years old, 4 years old, when you couldn't wait to get up and see what Santa Claus left you under the tree.
It's refreshing to see an old-fashioned toy train Christmas layout. No concern for realism here, just fun.
We have chosen the Lionel 6464-150 Missouri Pacific boxcar to illustrate what variations are all about. Joe Alcazzini, one of the hobby's leading variation collectors, will explain.
The first version of Missouri Pacific boxcar in 1954 has a yellow plastic door with a gray painted stripe. To the right of the door is the Missouri Pacific Eagle. It's considered a large eagle. Directly below it is new 354. Rest of the data, rest of the graphics to the left, graphics to the right. To the left of the door, directly under the Missouri Pacific logo or herald, there's no printing in this area either.
The printing was also omitted from the far right corner. Now let's go to the second version made in 1954.
Later 1954, yellow plastic door, gray painted stripe, large eagle. Built by Lionel replaces new 354, which moves to the left, XME to the far right, 1954. Production of the Missouri Pacific boxcar in 1955 is a little bit different. If we take a quick look, it looks like the same car. To the left of the door, we still have new 354. We still have the gray painted stripe. We still have the yellow plastic door with the gray painted stripe, the built by Lionel, the Eagle, and the XME, and the rest of the Missouri Pacific graphics. But a little closer examination, we notice a couple things. Number one, the Eagle is smaller in 1955 than it was in 54, and the reason is Lionel added grooves to the boxcar in 1955. Probably the first car they had was the state of Maine that did that, but they added grooves, and it made it easier to apply the paint. It was a neater job, and in doing so, the Eagle became smaller. A comparison between a 54, large eagle, small eagle. Smaller eagle has the grooves. The larger eagle just has the gray painted. Here's the XME from 54. Still has the XME in 55. Built by Lionel in 54. Built by Lionel in 55. Let's go to an additional run in later 55. If you notice, the gray painted stripe on the door is missing. And where the seal was in the second panel to the left of the door, this particular boxcar has a seal in the first panel to the left of the boxcar. This is probably the most desirable and the rarest of the Missouri Pacific boxcars. The last run in 1955, Missouri Pacific Shield, back to the second panel, white plastic door painted yellow.
Another way to identify the third production run in 1955 is to check the roof.
In a later part of the 1955 production year, Lionel came out with the Ice Depot. With the Ice Depot is a boxcar, reefer car, and the roof is modified so that it can open up and ice cubes can fall in. When Lionel reused the die, reused the mold, they had to put an insert or a plug so that this plastic would form, and it left the ridge right here.
The 64-64-150 was not cataloged in 1956, but returned in 1957 with still more changes.
The Eagle is now smaller and to the far left of the door. And in 55 it was to the right of the door. You'll also notice that the Missouri Pacific and 64-64-150 is now to the right of the door. Prior to that, it was here to the left of the door. We still have new 354 like we did in 55, but the herald here has changed. The shield has changed. It's smaller.
The doors also changed in 1957. Before 1957, the doors had one large block.
We now have 1, 2, 3, 4 large blocks in the small.
All these variations are known and recognized by collectors. Recently, Dick Owen of Gresham, Oregon called and said he had discovered a new variation. Joe told him to send it in and we'd check it out. So Dick sent it in, and Toy Train Revue cameras were there.
It's in a rare K-line box. I've never seen this before. Ooh. Tom, this is an interesting car.
The car is 54 production. What's interesting is the color of the lettering. It's blue rather than black. The herald is different too. On regular production, the lettering is black. On this version, the lettering is gray, reversed out of a blue background. Joe discovered more about the car when he checked out the 1954 Lionel Advanced Catalog.
This is probably for Toy Fair, 1954. And since it's out before the consumer catalog, it doesn't show all the 64 boxcars in its listing. So what it does come with is a little one-page insert.
This one-page black and white insert shows a car exactly like the kind that Dick sent in, which indicates the car was a mock-up used for photography in the advanced 1954 catalog.
It also has 64-150, just like the one in the 1954 insert we have right up here. 64-150.
Regular production cars do not have the hyphen between the 64 and the 150.
Dick is up Oregon way. There's always a possibility that this may have come out of the San Francisco showroom. It's got all indications of being 100% original. It's really a nice car.
Thanks, Dick, for sending in the car. Now all we have to do is convince Joe to return it.
Dick, kiss it goodbye. Would you like one of my $50 versions? I know Dick Owen's never met me before, and he's definitely going to want to meet me after this.
It's called the Toy Train Revue Journal, and it's different than any other Toy Train magazine now being published. First, there are no ads. Secondly, in addition to articles on collecting and layouts, each issue contains price guide updates. In this, our second issue, we have current prices for both Lionel pre-war and Lionel post-war. Even a price guide to Lionel post-war boxes, a TM first. The idea is to provide updated prices on a quarterly basis. This will eliminate the need of buying an entire new book just to get current prices. Plus wall-to-wall features on toy trains, all written in the informative and entertaining TM style. Call today and start your subscription while we still have copies of the premiere issue. The Toy Train Odyssey of Warren Frost started in 1953 with a Mark Santa Fe set. continued with American Flyer, then a long trek in HO, and finally, in 1988, Warren's quest ended almost back where it started, with toy trains, specifically American Flyer S-Gauge. Did Warren's long journey reveal the meaning of life? Did he discover inner peace? Maybe, maybe not. But he did stumble upon a revelation perhaps just as important.
Toy trains don't pretend to be the real thing. They only pretend to be the toys. And because of that, they are the real thing. Real old toy trains. And that's the beauty of them. That's something that scale railroading will never have because they're not real.
Warren grew up in Rochester, New York.
Trains were a way of life for us kids, and we used to argue about whether 3-rail or 2-rail was better. And I remember wearing an I Like Ike button, must have been 1952, standing in the snow, arguing with some of my friends about how ridiculous 3-rail track was and how superior American Flyer was. And I guess people are still arguing about that today.
In 1956, Warren decided to switch to HO.
And I remember my brother and I loading all our Flyer trains into a big Coke bottle box and driving down there. We went down in the basement at Gardner's where a gentleman waited on us, and he looked over our American Flyer and he said, well, maybe you'd like to take it out and trade for the HO I have in stock. And Gardner did have some HO at that time. So we picked out a GP7 HO scale. I think it retailed for $10 or $11. Probably cost him about $6. And that's the trade we made. Our brand new Flyer trains for that GP7, and we were glad to get it at the time. However, in retrospect, that's one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made, and I just wish someone had urged me to hold on to my Flyer.
For the next 33 years, Warren became immersed in HO model railroading and finally built his dream layout in 1986, a fine model of his hometown, Rochester. The layout was as good as HO railroading gets, but something was missing.
It didn't at all remind me of Rochester in my youth.
This feeling of discontent lingered until a chance visit to a toy store got Warren back on the right track.
And then in January of '88, I walked into a store called Teddy's and Trains in Old Sacramento. And there on the wall, I saw a blue stripe silver Comet set. Something inside me said, you've got to have that. Well, this was a heinous crime if you were a scale model railroader to even contemplate buying any tin plate. But I did. I bought it. I brought it home, kind of snuck it in. I didn't want my HO friends to know about it. Put it up on the floor underneath the train table. And I started running it. And gosh, all the memories of youth just flooded back. So I started buying American Flyer at a real high-pitched pace. I couldn't get enough of it. Started going to the train shows and sending away for lists, making phone calls. Started acquiring a collection with the intent to just operate it on the floor for myself and my son. As far as my HO friends knew. But it didn't take very long before I knew the HO just didn't have it. It still seemed like a lot of very nice but small little trains running on little track. I got hooked by toy trains, American Flyer in particular, because that's what I had as a kid, and I've never looked back at scale railroading.
Instead, Warren, along with his wife Carolyn and 2 children, Jacqueline and Warren Jr., began to look forward to building an S-gauge layout.
I wanted hands-off operations so I could walk around and look at them, and I wanted to be able to bring people in and show them the trains running.
Work started in November 1988. Down came the HO layout, and in its place, this handsome scale-detailed 20 by 22-foot S-gauge layout was erected. The benchwork consists of 2x4s with 1x4 bracing topped with 3/4-inch thick plywood. There are 2 levels with 2 mainline loops on each level. Gilbert block signals allow 2 trains to run on each loop. All the engines, rolling stock, and accessories are American Flyer produced prior to 1958. The layout is powered by Flyer's impressive 30B transformers.
Flyer original.
Gargrave's track
Along with
is
the
combined
Gargrave's
with
track
Flyer
because-
switches.
Not that I care that it's more realistic, because I don't. I care that you can flex the track to whatever curve radius you want, make it fit the available space. And it's kind of ironic, here I am buying Gargrave's track, manufactured by the people that ran Gardner the Train Doctors, who ended up with our original American Flyer. I wanted to bring my family into it. I named a town for my daughter Jacqueline, and that's Jacqueline City. That's the biggest city on the layout. I named a town for my wonderful wife Carolyn, and that's Carolinsville. And I also named a town for my son, Warrensville, so that they all feel like they have some part in it. My wife's been a saint about it. If anyone comes to visit, she's the first to take them out in the garage and show them the layout and brag about it. My kids, the same with them. My daughter, although she is not really into trains, she appreciates it. I really think she likes the layout a lot, and she always takes her friends out there, and she wants to help with scenery and so forth. And in fact, it's a family deal. Everybody helps, as much as I'll let them, because I want to do a lot of it myself. And my son, he has coal smoke in his blood, just like me. He's a spitting image. He loves trains, prototype and toy. It's just a great blessing. I'm totally thrilled with the relationship that we have through the toy trains and elsewhere.
Structures include Plasticville and almost all the buildings Minicraft made for American Flyer. The scenicking skills Warren acquired during those HO years have been put to good use.
There's kind of a middle ground on my layout between scale and toy. All the accessories and the people and the vehicles are all toy, the trains and so forth. It's pure toy. But I decided I'd like to have nice scenery, so I built a good-looking track with ballast. I super elevated all the curves so the trains lean into the curves. Used the hard shell techniques to put scenery on mountains and build some streams and lakes and so forth, all of which enhances the effect, and it kind of allows you to have that creative input that you wouldn't have if you just went strictly with the out-of-the-box toys. I do enjoy getting my hands dirty and working in the scale realm, but I don't want to detract very much from the toy equipment and the toy structures on the layout.
Warren believes in running his trains and doesn't worry about any depreciating value.
And I don't think that hurts the collectability at all. A, it's good for them. B, they should be lubricated. And if your railroad is sound, you're not going to have accidents that will damage the equipment. Don't be afraid. Just have good track work and don't run them too fast. I try and buy them in nice condition to start with, and I like to take good care of them and clean them and bring them up to the standards they were when they're brand new. I take everything apart, unless it's mint, I take it apart and I clean it. Get the rust off of it, take the tarnish off of it, just polish it right up. Because that's the way they looked when they were new, and that's the way I want my trains to look. Picking a favorite American Flyer train is really tough. And people have said, well, it's the one I'm holding in my hand at the time, and that's a good answer. If you really pin me down, I go back to that blue stripe silver Comet set from 1954. Aside from the trains, the structures interest me just as much. The Minicraft buildings, I think, are fascinating. The Gulford station, the people mover, where the little people go around, that's the toy era personified. I just love that station. Toy trains mean to me, they're a symbol of industrial America that I grew up with, a vanished America. The 40s and 50s when everything seemed to be rosy. It's a bygone era, which I relived through my toy trains. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. I know that you can't live in the past, but you sure can appreciate the good points of it. And toy trains bring me and others who visit back to the world of my childhood. What worries me is I think most of us collectors are driven by a strong nostalgic drive to recreate our childhood. And as the number of collectors who have direct experience with toy trains as children diminishes, the intensity of collecting will surely diminish also. My son, at age of 8, is generally the only individual below the age of 40 at the train shows I go to, as a general rule. That does not portend well for the future. Collect, buy, operate what you like. Don't let anybody tell you what's right and wrong, because there are no rights and wrongs in this hobby. It's what you personally wish to do. The most fun in this hobby, and the most unselfish part, is running your trains for other people. I've had a lot of people come into that garage and look at this layout. Many have never seen a toy train. They know nothing about them, but almost invariably, they will smile, whether they're kids or whether they're adults. They'll say things like, "I don't believe it. Did they really make things like this?" It's just a joy to behold, and it makes them happy. And that's what running toy trains is all about.
We remember those heated discussions long ago about the relative merits of American Flyer versus Lionel. We were always on the Lionel side, but to be honest, if we had seen a layout like Warren's, choosing sides would have been far more difficult.
I thank the good Lord above for giving me the means and ability to have a collection and layout like this, and that I really appreciate the unity it builds in our family. I just hope that it will give joy to my kids so that when they grow up, they will be able to have the fine memories of youth and Christmases and toys that I was blessed enough to have as a kid.
Visit the world-famous train station in Mountain Lakes, New Jersey for the finest selection of post-war Lionel. We have more top-quality trains here than you'll find at York. Graded to strict TCA standards, we guarantee that our trains are original. You know us from our Lionel Classic Locomotive Videotape series. Come see our 3 showrooms with thousands of trains and our large operating layout. We also carry the latest from Lionel, K-Line, LGB, and more at prices you'll really like. Our authorized Lionel service department can bring the life back to your old trains. We purchase collections, and building layouts is our specialty, too. For fastest service nationwide, call 201-263-1979. That's 201-263-1979. We're located 40 minutes west of New York City in Mountain Lakes, New Jersey. Make the train station your final destination for the best in Lionel trains.
Larry Post of Train Express, one of the country's largest Lionel mail-order dealers, stopped by TM's national headquarters on his way back from Lionel, where he had just reviewed Lionel Book 2 for 1993.
Well, it's obvious by looking at the catalogs, both Book 1 and Book 2, that there is an emphasis to move away from the high-end collector pieces, especially the very expensive ones. We see this in viewing the catalogs by the number of different engines offered and at a lower price, and we see it especially at the introductory level train sets with the best features we've ever had at the lowest price we've ever had in modern times. And Lionel seems to be committed to going to this direction, and we think it's the proper direction to go.
The New York Central Flyer set is priced lower than last year's Coastal Limited and also has a whistle.
It's going to have more features and it's going to come out at a lower price. To me, that's a great mix for success at any level. The steam engine is going to be changed from gray to black. The boxcar will probably be silver if Lenny Dean gets his way. And the bulkhead flat will either be green or yellow. At the introductory level, at the beginner sale point, it seems like the children or the adults always want a black steam engine with a red caboose. This Santa Fe set that's offered, it's a home run, a real winner. We think that Lionel should have a passenger set in their line every year. Santa Fe obviously is going to be a good seller. The initial orders on this are superb. It is the best-selling set out of the 93 catalog so far. It seems that there's a strong desire to have a passenger set in the line by our customers, and we get so many requests for it that we think it should be available every year. And it's been a couple of years since Lionel's offered the 027 passenger cars.
In addition to the 3-car set, Lionel is offering for separate sale a matching dummy A unit with horn and 3 additional passenger cars. There's also a die-cast steamer with Santa Fe markings, which could also go with the cars.
That they offer a Santa Fe marked observation car for separate sale as well, to potentially go with the Santa Fe marked separate sale steam engine. I think that would make a nice set for them this year.
Lionel's good selection of relatively inexpensive sets is an attempt to attract new customers.
there seem to be more and more people out there buying train sets for the first time. And we need to concentrate on that, take these customers by the hand, make sure that all their needs are answered, take time to answer even what may appear to us to be questions less than the brightest. And we have to remember that these are going to be our future collectors and hopefully ongoing customers for the future.
You mean there are kids who prefer toy trains to Nintendo?
Absolutely. We never see enough of them, but we're seeing more than what we have in the last 4 or 5 years. We see more in the last 2 years constructing layouts than we have over the last 5 to 10 years. We view that as a real positive sign as well.
Occasionally, set components are sold separately.
The Conrail Consolidated train set, it's a nice train set. It's pretty much with the times. It's going to appeal to a lot of customers. We think it's going to have a nice breakup value for us. That is, sell the cars independent of each other. They're going to be boxed separately, which will help us do that. Lionel is reintroducing the Berkshire, as we all remember it. This year it's going to be the Pierre Marquette markings. It's a very nice engine. It's a series of Madison-style cars to go with it. We're a little concerned about the price, but regardless of the price, there will be customers out there for it. How many, we don't know. It's hard to get excited about this road name and about the colors. It may be prototypical, but there's nothing that grabs you.
Larry is a believer in bright colors.
Bright colors sell seemingly to us better than just drab colors. Santa Fe's always going to be a great seller if it's the war bonnet color, and colors are the reason, yeah. But there's a lot of tradition and a lot of history surrounding that, so it's not the colors alone. So the question would be asked, Tom, probably is there a lot of tradition because of the colors? I don't know. And, the Western Maryland Alcos, it's an Eastern Road name. It's probably going to sell fairly well. I don't think the market will be vast. The Boston and Maine NW2 switcher, it's a nice unit. We think there will be appeal again. We sold those for under $50. They were very successful. We did sell out. We were told that they would not be offered again, and we're very pleased to see that they in fact are going to be offered again. We think there is a place for that kind of product. Very inexpensive, does a great job, and it's a good runner. RS3 engine in the Christmas marking, something that will go with the Christmas boxcars that Lionel has offered in the most recent years past, as well as a matching caboose to go with it. The caboose is super, looks just great. I think that there is a need for this, and I think it's going to be relatively successful. In addition, Lionel is offering the Rock Island 44-ton switcher. They have improved the handrails. They have improved the wheel placement on the frame. This should be a good seller as well. Priced right. Erie Lackawanna PA Alcos. This is their second offering in the PA Alco line. Very beautiful choice of road names and colors. It's going to sell very well in the eastern market, very well in the Pennsylvania area. It looks great. It's offered this year as a AA rather than an ABA, and I am told that this is prototypical, that the Erie Lackawanna did not run the B unit. Beautiful engine. I think it's probably one of the best painted, most beautiful pieces ever offered. A lot of detail. To me, it's the finest diesel offering Lionel has ever offered. Lionel has an absolute home run with their offering of the Maxi Stack. Beautiful red Maxi Stack frames with the Norfolk Western markings. This unit, we can't get enough of these. I don't think there's a distributor out there who will be able to stock enough of these. They're continuing with the center I-beam flat cars, very successful in 1992, 2 more offerings in 1993, the Union Pacific and the CSX. And there will be additional markings on these cars other than what we see in the catalog If not for 1993, then sometime down the road. The last Mint car is being offered this year, and the Charlotte Mint car. High Cube car, goofy High Cube cars in the line. This is going to be another great seller. We'll not be able to get enough of these. We'll sell every one we can get. It seems like all of the Disney cars sell no matter what, especially if you have them priced well. And we just put a fair markup on it and sell out. We don't care what happens after we get rid of it or after the demand comes and goes. You know, the second market is something that we don't get into very often. An interesting direction that Lionel's going with one of their boxcars, the Contadina boxcar. Interesting that they're using a product like that on the boxcar. It's very colorful. Remains to be seen how successful this is going to be. They're continuing with the auto carriers, very beautifully marked GT auto carrier, nice Virginian stock car, just a great mix of rolling stock. The TTUXs are continuing with the offering from the Southern Railroad this year. They're going to bring back the flat car with ladders. This year it's going to be yellow. It's going to be a winner. It's just great. The Toxic Waste car. It's a remake of what we remember from the 50s as 50s and 60s as the atomic energy waste disposable car. Looks great. This year they're not going to have the two metal rails. We're unclear as to how they're going to do this, but nevertheless the car looks great. Lionel TV car. It's going to be a great seller. I'd like to see a little bit more color on this car than what I've seen so far, but it's going to be a winner. Bugs Bunny and Yosemite Sam Outlaw car. This is going to be another winner. It's going to be a complementary unit that would go with the circus set from a few years back. There's nothing unusual in the accessory line this year. There's nothing new. Like last year we had the steam and wheel grind, and the year before the lift bridge. There's nothing that spectacular this year. They're offering the gantry crane again, which is a great accessory. This year it's done in the Pennsylvania Road name, which we think will be a great seller. They brought back the burning switch tower, which will be a nice complement to the firefighting car. Lionel has also reintroduced the illuminated fueling station, which is a nice accessory. The service station offering for 1993 is the Sioux Line GP38-2. We think that this particular set is an absolute winner. It's the most colorful service station set offered of the last three. We think that there's going to be a great breakup sell on this. That Sioux Line 2-bay center flow hopper is beautiful. We think it'll be possibly the most requested thing out of the set, along with the Illinois Central Golf TTUX. Lenny Dean and Mike Baraga have to be given credit for the successes that they've had in the last 3 years on the service stations. All three of those have been great sellers, much sought after, much requested. We never have enough of them. Nice offering of American Flyer rolling stock. 2 or 3 of these cars the collectors are going to like very much. It's going to be interesting to see how they're going to look at this A.C. Gilbert boxcar. We're a little curious about how they're going to react to that. Lionel has a couple new offerings this year in G-Gauge. They're going to offer the Union Pacific GP20. Beautiful, very striking Union Pacific colors. They're going to offer in with this package, I understand, both the LGB coupler as well as Lionel's knuckle coupler. I think this is going to be very well received. Well, we hope the future is going to be very bright for all of us. We like most of the changes that Lionel is offering right now. We especially like the different road names that they're offering. We like the price points that they're offering these products at. We're a little unclear right now as to the direction they're going in respect to distributing the product and the different levels of price that they're offering. We're just a little unclear right now.
Larry is also ambivalent about the Lionel policy regarding the sale of new Lionel product at train meets.
I thought initially that it wouldn't hurt, that all those who wanted the product and weren't able to buy it at a train show would then go to mail order or their local hobby store. But with the passing of time, I'm having some second thoughts about this. Not everyone has access to a train store, and not everyone wants to buy mail order. And it's possible that Lionel is going to lose a segment of their marketplace, and that some people have pointed out to me that a lot of purchases are made on impulse. And if you're not in front of the product and it's not available there for you while you're ready to buy, then you may not buy it. And that's the point or the percentage of sales that Lionel may be losing. I don't know, it remains to be seen.
Larry Post of Train Express, Indianapolis. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on Lionel 1993 Book 2 with our viewers.
The Toy Train Revue brings a new concept to the toy train hobby. It is a 60-minute video quarterly devoted to every aspect of tin plating. 4 times a year, in the spring, summer, fall, and winter, you will receive a complete program about toy trains. Nothing about the hobby is ignored in the Toy Train Revue. No story is too big or too small to escape the probing, entertaining style of producers James Toohey and Tom McComas, whose previous work has made them the toast of toy train videos. The Toy Train Revue is the start of something historic, and now is your opportunity to be part of it. Become a subscriber on a yearly basis and save money, and be eligible for special offers. Or buy the Toy Train Revue separately as each issue comes out. The Toy Train Revue. Subscribe now and say you were there at the beginning.
From the great Atlantic Ocean to the wide Pacific shore, from the green and growing mountain to the south belt by the shore.
Well, that's our show. We hope you enjoyed it. The next Toy Train Revue will feature Boyd Mason's Hobby Store and Museum in Hazlet, New Jersey, and we'll visit Chuck Ream, who has 2 layouts. One is T-rail and the other is reel. Plus more layouts, interviews, and surprises. Don't miss it. Until next time, full speed ahead.